Now here, advice issued to universities over gender segregation in meetings and lectures has been withdrawn after the Prime Minister said that it should not be allowed. Universities UK had issued the guidance following a series of Islamic events on campuses at which male and female students had been separated. But David Cameron said university guests should not be allowed to address segregated audiences under any circumstances. Here's our culture and digital editor, Paul Mason.
David Cameron was in Bolton to discuss the railways, but he couldn't escape the issue of an obscure guideline on campus political correctness that's blown up into a national political row.
I'm absolutely clear that there shouldn't be segregated audiences for visiting speakers to universities in Britain. That is not the right approach. The guidance shouldn't say that. Universities should not allow this, and I'm very clear about that.
Universities UK, the umbrella body for higher education, today withdrew its controversial advice that had seemed to allow some gender segregation on campus. The controversial part of the original guidance was that it seemed to place the rights of a speaker demanding segregation higher than the rights of a woman who didn't want to be segregated. Today, David Cameron's taken the issue further, saying that even voluntarily segregated meetings on campus should be banned. But what evidence do we have that they're going on? The furore has been driven by a report from Student Rights. It claimed 46 events had taken place in the year to March at 21 universities where segregation between men and women had been promoted or implied. At the London School of Economics today, students were packed and ready for the Christmas break, but not before voting to condemn student rights as Islamophobic. For these three student activists, the whole issue is complicated.
I think it's sexist and transphobic. I think it's just a basic right that people should be able to sit where they want. There have been meetings that have been voluntarily segregated, so people have turned up to, say, in a lecture or a place of worship and chose to voluntarily segregate themselves. There hasn't been any meetings here where segregation has been forced upon people. As an organisation, we would not condone that at all. We'd break up the meeting. It's against the law. We can't accept it.
I think there's an agenda against certain groups, whether it's Islamic societies or whatever. There seems to be a constant kind of push to monitor the way they're behaving, the kind of events they're running, which is fine, but if they were applying the same standards to other religious groups, say, it'd be easier to take it a bit more seriously.
You think it's Islamophobic?
Well, I think we've got to call a spade, and that's what it is.
Islamophobic?
Yeah, absolutely.
The group leading the campaign against segregation is called Student Rights. They work out of the HQ of the right-wing Henry Jackson Society, whose main aim is to monitor the content of extremist speeches, and they say they're not Islamophobic.
We try to work out who it is that's coming on, which universities perhaps are seeing a greater level of individuals with views that would either be intolerant or extreme. And so when the segregation issue comes up, it's almost a byproduct of that original issue.
There's another way of looking at that, and that is to say, stop the segregation and you can silence people you don't like.
I don't think that's the case. I think stopping the segregation doesn't necessarily mean that these people won't be coming onto campus. It doesn't necessarily silence them. Their right to speak obviously is important. It's protected by the law. Universities have a legal duty to protect freedom of speech on campus.
So, term is over, but the political row over who can sit where and who can say what at a university is not over.